Hi everybody, this is Tor Storley, and I am back with another video. This is the 6th video in this series, and I like to create a DBT project from scratch in this one, so I can demonstrate the process of what you probably want to do. In this and the next video, most likely, we'll look at some additional stuff, plus we will work with a different project than the Jaffle shop project that we've been looking at so far, which is the sample project from DBT Labs. What I have here is a SQL Server database, and I'm going to log into this database I got here. So let me connect to that one, and it's going to open up and show me all the databases that are available. It looks like maybe I have to start SQL Server. And let's go to SQL Server, and let's start it and see what happens. So I'm running SQL Server 2022, I believe this one is. Okay, so now it opened up. And if you look here, I got a few databases. One of them is called Wide World Importers, which is a sample database that Microsoft has. If you want to get this database, you can go out there and Google and just search for it. But the one we're interested in is this Wide World Importers DW, Data Warehouse. So if you look at it, it's constructed like you will find in a relational database data warehouse style, where you have dimension tables, like you can see date tables, customer tables, city, etc. And then you have different fact tables, as you can see here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just grab a couple of these so we can demonstrate the data is not that important at this point. So one way you can do that is to go in and go to one of these fact tables that I'm interested in, the sales table, and I can view the dependencies. Okay, so it open up and notice what it says, objects that depend on sale. Now, we don't care about that. We want to see which one this sales table depends on. So let's switch that and do the objects on which sale depends. So you can see I'm needing some tables here. These are dimension tables. So you get city, and you can see here is the keys that it's using. Why do you see only one field? It's based on this fact table. And in this fact table, the whole purpose of a fact table is to have all these references to these different dimension tables, but you only need the key from each one of those dimension tables. And then when you write your queries, you can get the rest of the stuff. So notice this one has a city key, it has a customer key, it has an employee key. Now, why doesn't that show up here? I'm not sure. And then it has, well, this is probably the one, PF date. I'm not sure what kind of object this is, but all right. So anyways, we're going to try to grab these and create some tables out of them. And then we're going to grab this fact table right here. Now, if you look at the properties for this, you can see that the number of rows that this bad boy has, let me see, storage. So we'll open storage, and it tells me it has 228,265 records in there. Okay, so we're going to try to get those records. I did try to write the BCP script that will actually grab these tables and run them, which is very fast. However, it only grabs the data. And I had very bad results because some of the data gets corrupted when I use these techniques. So from the past, I know that for a fact that one of the problems with these databases and getting data out of it and into another, etc., is there's always a lot of plumbing and encoding and stuff that has to happen. So for now, I'm going to minimize this, and then I'm going to open up PowerShell. And as you can see, I have a script created here. So if you look at it here, I created a hash table here, and it has the actual name of the table in SQL Server and whatever name I want to give it. So the dimension city table, I just want to call city, for example. And some of them have spaces in them. So I have to wrap the square brackets, and SQL Server use these square brackets. So I'm wrap that around them. And as you can see, this one I'm renaming payment method instead of just payment space method. Then I have this function. As you can see here, that's this part, calling this function up here. And I'm passing in the SQL name, okay? So the SQL name is going to be this variable. The query I'm going to run is to select the column names here, as you can see, and order them by ordinal position. And then for each of these columns here, by using this for each object, I'm going to join it into select this list of column names, basically, which will become this one when you loop through each one and keep adding and using this join command and put a comma between each one of those column names, okay? So it's pretty dynamic. And here in the tables keys, all right, so the table keys are this one here. Here is the clean file name I want to use, which is going to be the table name. You know, so it'd be dimension city is going to be city, etc., etc. And then down here, I'm having an out file name, and that's going to be whatever this clean name is. So for each table, it will rename it to whatever I gave it up here, these guys. And then it will put a .csv behind it, and it's going to put into this folder. And then it's going to write some text out to this console here. And here is the query. And here I'm actually running the actual code. And notice towards the end here, you're going to run this query. And then you're going to export it as a CSV to this location. Now, this no type information prevents you from seeing extra stuff in your CSV files, like how many rows there are and stuff like that. And also, I'm using an encoding UTF-8 because that's what I want to use for the DBT. This is what we're going to get. Okay, so let's run this file. I'm going to just go here and run it like this. And as you can see, it starts on the bottom here in the blue area. You can see it start creating dimension city file to city and so on. And it goes through each one of these guys. And the last one is the fact sale, which is a big one. So it takes a little longer. This is not the fastest export you can do from SQL Server, obviously, but it's the most clean one. This one will make your files look a little better than if you try any other method. There is a problem with this fact table, for one, I know, because it has comma inside the text field. So you need quotes around the text field. So this one will ensure that you're getting the right output in the right way. Now, there's another fix we're going to run to fix some problematic records. Here is the files. Okay, so we'll spool these out and you can see the size of these files. So these are the files we're going to be using. All right, so let me move to the next stage. Okay, so I have the latest version of Positron here. And as you can see, I open up that WWI folder. And here's the CSV files in the CSV folder. Now, why do I do that? Well, I just want to get a quick overview over what's in these files. Now, clicking on city, one of the nice things about this, remember this shell here for Positron is just like you find in VS Code. It has the same kind of icons. It's built on this shell that they use in VS Code. But notice you're getting all the keys. And what happens here is that you can go in and see that there's no missing values here. And it will give you an overview over the different fields and the distributions, etc. So you can see that just by hovering here, you can see Southeast has a 23.6%, while the New England has 4.6% of the sales territory values here. So it gives you a very nice way of actually viewing your data. And of course, you can go through all of this with the dates, for example, say day number, day, month, calendar month, so there's a bunch of different variations of date values. Here is the sales, the fact table. And as you can see, there is all these keys, sale key, city key, and obviously they should not be missing. So you can see there's no missing. You can analyze your data a little bit in here and get some ideas about what it looks like, etc. So I strongly urge you to take a look at the Positron tool. It's kind of nice. All right, so we're going to move on and move into VS Code. So I set up the project from scratch here, and notice we only got a couple of items in here. We got a CSV folder with files, and of course I have the script, the PowerShell script. You can see here, create CSV file from SQL Server, and this one is just a help Excel sheet that I'm using for the fields, and this one here is my script to how to create this project, so that all the commands that I'm going to be using. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to need is a new terminal. So let's open it and go to a new terminal window. Now, by default, it will open up the bash here. Okay, so my default is bash, but I want to use PowerShell. So I'm going to switch. Here's my PowerShell script. First thing I need to do is get a Python. Make sure you're in the right folder, because this is where I want to create my project. So Control-Shift-P on my Windows machine. Select an interpreter. I'm going to use this 3.13 because DBT likes that. So I'm going to use that one. So what I want to do then is I want to create a folder, and then I want to activate my virtual environment in that folder. So the first thing I want to do is create the folder here, make a directory like this. And as you can see, it created that directory right here. So the next step then becomes to actually navigate to that. So we're going to cd into this one. And now we're in the right one. What I want to do is I want to create a virtual environment inside that folder. So let's paste that, python-m venv, okay? And it creates an virtual environment for it. So right there, it should be pretty much done. And I want to actually activate this by using this one here, venv/scripts activate in PowerShell. All right, so now you can see it has this green stuff in front of it. That means I'm inside that environment. So now I should be ready to continue working with this. One thing you might want to do is, if you're working in PowerShell, is to make sure you have the right execution. So set execution policy -execution policy remote signed -scope current user. That will just give you permissions to do whatever you need to do. Now I'm getting this irritating gapping here, but okay, so as you can see, it installed a bunch of stuff here, so let me clean it out. And this is the DBT information. And the next thing is let's check and see what kind of version the DBT is. Now, I'm going to have to still my video while I'm doing this, because I have this antivirus thing that it's always going to check these executables. So instead of wasting your time with this, I'm just going to still the video. So let me run that command and hit enter and then still it. All right, so it finished and it tells me that this is the core. You can see here, this is the information it gives me back from running the dbt -- version. Now, what I want to do now is I want to initialize the project itself. Therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually run this init, dbt init, and then a name of a project. So I'm going to get a subfolder under here that is going to hold the project information. So let me run that. So it prompts me, it says, this profile already exists because I have a profile YAML file. It asks you continue and override it. And I'm going to say, no, I want to keep that one. And I'm going to show you what that looks like afterwards. Let me just run this through. So I hit enter again and it runs through. It's done. So if you look under this project over here now, notice it has logs, the venvs, which belongs to this. And then we created this new folder up here. And this one should hold all the information. Create an analysis folder, a macros folder, models folder, and it gives you some startup samples here, which we're not going to use. It has a seeds folder where we're going to put our CSV files. It has snapshots. We haven't really discussed that yet, but you can actually set time travel for your data, etc. And then it has a test folder like this. All right, very good. So it created that, and therefore we are ready now to set up another file that we're going to need, which is in profiles YAML file that's going to be inside. Actually, I'm going to show you that file in the .dbt folder. So let me navigate there and show you. Under my username is a .dbt folder, and inside there you can see there's a profiles YAML file. And this is all the stuff that is in it. So I named title, if you will, WWI DuckDB. So what's going to happen is when DBT runs, it's going to look for this file, and it's going to particularly look for this path here, which is basically where it's going to find the DuckDB database. And here I'm setting the threads to be 4, which is pretty basic. And the schema in the DuckDB is main. So this is what this file is being used for. So it's pretty straightforward, as you can see. That's what DBT will be looking for. Okay, so the next thing is to put the CSV files into this seeds folder here. You can see it's empty right now. So as you can see, I got these files right here. So let me select them all and then drag them into this seeds folder right here. And as you can see, now under the seeds folder, we got the files we need. So what we can do now is we can verify the connection and see if we have a connection to different things. So I'm going to run this dbt debug command. I hit enter and it's going to be running. And as you can see, it runs through a bunch of stuff here. And it says one check failed, git found okay, profiles found okay, but it couldn't find this dbt project YAML file. So why couldn't it find it? Well, remember, the problem I'm having here is that I have this nested folder structure like this. So one thing I can do is I can grab this guy and drag it outside so it gets outside that nested folder. So it sits right here in the root folder. And now I can try to run it again and see if it actually works. So that's why I'm going to run the dbt debug one more time. So now when you look at it, you can see I ran that one more time here. It found the dbt project YAML file. Git is okay, and that's so and so and so on. All checks passed. Okay, so that's good news. So next thing I want to do is I want to navigate to this inner nested folder. So I'm going to navigate like this, and let's clear it. It's kind of hard to read here. So as you can see, now I'm in this folder. I want to create 2 new folders. So I'm going to make a staging folder right here, and then I'm going to also make a production folder. So let me paste that in and let me clear it so you can actually see it. And if you look over here now, you can see that I have under here, I got a staging folder and I got a production folder. Okay, so if you look at my dbt underscore project YAML file, one of the problems I'm going to have here is because I got nested path is for it to be able to find this. It's not going to find it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update this file. Let me copy that over. Okay, so as you can see, I updated here. You can see the navigation to the right spots out there. I added the logs. I also added down here the staging folder and the production folder. And I'm using this. It's going to be the default inside. Anything I create in the staging folder is going to be materialized into a view. Anything in production, it's probably not going to be a view. It's probably going to be a table like this. And again, I'm also setting up my documentation. So when you look at that graph visualization inside my docs, you will see the different node colors being set based on the default values right here. So that's just some of the changes I want to make. Another thing I want to do is I want to set up some internal one in a staging folder. So I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call it schema YAML. Like this, and then I have some code I'm going to put in there. So here is the file that I created, and I'm looking for my models. It's going to be under the models here. You're going to have the staging city, which is going to be the CSV translated into this view names stg underscore city. And also I'm going to have some tests running on these columns. The first column I want to test is the city key, and it's going to be see whether it's unique or not. Okay. And then you have this customer key, check if it's unique or not. These are built-in tests in dbt, I'm sorry. So it's a bunch of these guys for each table, each CSV file. I'm creating a table here and do some testing on it. And also setting up a couple of tests on the different column names, etc., etc. So that's how I'm gonna look for inside the schema file, as you can see. So it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so I also created a stg underscore city SQL file and customer date. So for each one of those CSV files, I have set it up by the name, as you can see here, but I renamed to stg, okay? So basically what's going to happen is that all of these guys will be the seeds inside my DuckDB database. So they'll be starting tables, basically. So each one of these will be created into a table. And then from there, I'm going to create these staging tables. So if you look at this one, for example, I'm using the same terminology. It's in the YAFL shop, source and renamed, and then from renamed like this. It's pretty basic stuff. The only thing I'm really doing in here is I take the original field name that came from the CSV, but I'm making it into more database style with underscore. So there's no gaps in these names. So that's what's going to happen here. Each one of these models, as you can see, is going to look like this. And it's notice is referring to the seed table name. So each one of these is going to refer to each seed table name. So that's the Jinja terminology we went through in the previous video. Now, this piece here, the way I created that is because there's a lot of typing. Now, most likely, if I was going to use this on an ongoing basis, I would have created some kind of Python script that reads from the CSV file and creates this for me with this special case. So that's something you can do on your own, but I just didn't do it that way. So basically what I did was I just went like here and I went to like city, the CSV. And as you can see, it has quotes and everything around it. So that's a good thing. And then from here, I simply go Shift and all to the end, Control C for copying, go in here and paste it in here. Then I just go in here and select this column, choose data, go here, right click and paste it. And then what I have is all this stuff. Now, one thing you got to do when you do use this text to column, you want to be careful because it removes these quotes. So as you can see, I'm using delimited and comma. But what I want to do is, you see this text qualifier? Say none, okay? Like this. Finish. Because now it keeps the quotes, and I kind of need those quotes. So I go in here, and over here, Control C, back to sheet 1, and then over here, right click and transpose, and there it is. So as you can see, here is what it looks like. We need this portion here, and once you get here, you Control C this, and you go back to your models, and in your model, like the city, all you have to do now is just paste it in here, and then make sure you remove the last comma here, and you're good to go. So that's all there is to it. You can do that with each of these models. Okay, so once you created these models, just by renaming all this stuff, I want to fix my problematic sales CSV file. If I open this sales CSV file, Control G, and I'll go to line 5939, I believe it was. When you look down here now, notice it added like 3 of these, and it says the goo, and then it has an extra one here. And over here, it looks okay again. So there's going to be a problem here if you try to parse this out. It gives me errors. So what I ended up doing was I created a Python script that's going to run through this stuff on this sales file and fix these guys. So let me show you what that Python script looks like. Fix fact sales CSV file. And I'm just importing regular expressions. And here is the files that I'm going to copy, this one. And I'm going to call it fixed. And then I'm going to open the file using these flags here. And I'm going to read it like this. And then I'm going to run my regular expression here where I simply look for this stuff and I'm replacing it. So I'll run it and it's done. And you can see here it's spooled out that message from the bottom of this file. Okay, so now we should have an extra file in the seeds folder called sales fixed. Remove the old one, get rid of it, delete it. Now you probably make this much more, nicer by fixing it. So rename this to sale because that's the fixed version of it. So let's go and look at it and see what it looks like now. Let's open this guy. If I do a Control G and I say 5939, you can see here now it's been putting in single quotes. So now we should get the right format. So that's what I had to do. So the next thing to do then is to actually create the WWI database and then move the seed files in. So what we can do is we can run this command dbt seed. So as you can see, it created this WWI DuckDB database down here. So let's take a look at that and see what that one looks like. Okay, so I realized that since I have these nested folders, I had to take this dbt project because it was sitting in a root folder and moved it to this first level folder, and because it gave me messages such as nothing to do, etc. You can see here it says nothing to do, and that's not what I want to see because there is something to do. So I'm going to have to try this again. All right, so as you can see, I run this dbt seed again, and it's running, checks the adapter for the database. Let's see, it's running here, and it's inserting. So at this point, it's just finishing up. And here we go. Completed successfully. So this time it worked. So there was 7 passes, as you can see. Total 7. So you can see here, I opened the WWI DuckDB database. And here now you can see, here is the seed tables. Okay? So let's go back and let's complete this. So let me copy this because I probably will need it again. So let's try to run this now, dbt run, and see what happens. So as you can see, I used the dbt run, and now you can see it runs through it. It found 7 seeds, 7 models, and 13 tests, and of course a lot of system macros involved there. So as you can see, it runs. It went okay. So it created these views. Remember, it produces views for the staging folder, and 7 passes, as you can see. Now, if you look at in DuckDB, you can see here, after I open this database, you can see now we have added these staging tables as well. So we can do like a from stg city maybe. And as you can see, here's all the information from that. So yeah, it seems to be working. In the next video, we'll continue and finish up this DBT video series. If you like my videos, please give me a like and consider subscribing to my channel. It'd be fantastic. I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.